Hey there everyone, welcome to Tales in Text and I'm your host Nisha. Today I'm going to get very candid and I'm going to be very open and honest about my personal tarot and oracle deck acquisition journey. Now this video, when I was thinking of doing this video, I did consider for a moment whether I should do it or not because these mistakes, when you're admitting to these mistakes and these regrets, it does put you in a very vulnerable position. It does make you very publicly be open about the wrong decisions, maybe stupid decisions that I have taken with regards to getting my decks. And I did consider how I would come off um, in front of the world. But then as I thought more about whether I should go public with this particular topic and whether I should discuss it openly, I began thinking of people who are new to the world of cartomancy and who are especially from a country like mine. Like I'm from India, right, where it's very difficult to acquire tarot and oracle decks, especially diverse decks. Most decks are very expensive. On average, every deck costs at least 1,000 to 1,500 in India, which is pretty expensive, and it's not a lot of people have that kind of expendable income. And I was just thinking about this. I thought, what, I've made these mistakes and I've had these regrets. I've learned from my mistakes and regrets. Why not share them with the world so that other people who are new to cartomancy and who may not have the resources to acquire a lot of decks, they don't end up making the same mistakes. They don't end up having the same regrets, because at the end of the day, truth be told, the practice of cartomancy is a luxury. It's not a necessity. It's not something that buying tarot and oracle decks or runes or any other decks isn't a absolute essential necessity for any of us. Even for those of us who make it a profession, they come into the profession at a later stage after having experienced tarot and oracle and cartomancy as a whole personally. It's a luxury that we indulge in by using our expendable income. And I didn't want people to make the same mistakes or have the same regrets that I did, and waste precious money, waste precious time, experience heartbreak, and confusion, and this and guilt at having bought all these decks, and you end up not using it because of a variety of reasons, and that deck is just, or maybe multiple decks are just sitting in your wherever, your shelf or your cupboard, and you don't know what to do with them. You can't get rid of them because there are a lot of issues which I will cover, maybe not in this video, but in the next video. I have another follow-up video for this. So you don't know what to do with those decks, and all these difficult emotions come up, and I'm sure there are places or families or households where you might have taken up the practice of cartomancy against the wishes of a loved one or a partner, who may not understand why you've done this, and there might be blame games about how you wasted your money on a deck that you don't even use, and it's just an all-around heartache. And I didn't want people to go through these emotions and experiences when they could be given some idea about the possible mistakes us, and when I say us, when I say all newbies or anyone who's new to tarot and oracle, or anyone who is experimenting with a different system. For example, you were into lenormand reading but you're getting into tarot and oracle reading right now. Any of us who want to buy cartomancy decks, we shouldn't be making these so that we can make our own life easier and our own tarot and oracle journey easier. So with that said, in this video I'm going to be talking about my top regrets and mistakes that I personally committed when I purchased my tarot and oracle decks, and which I would warn other people against, so that you can just think about these things. These are not hard and fast rules, because each person's experiences and life situations are different. But just think about these things and consider if any of these mistakes might apply to you. And I hope it helps you take mindful decisions about the kind of purchases that you make, especially in the very beautiful and sensory world of cartomancy. So let's dive right in. My very first regret and mistake was not budgeting tarot and oracle into my regular expenses and overshooting my actual available expendable income dramatically. And I think that's something that a lot of newcomers do, and especially because if you look online, if you're on social media, whether it's Instagram or TikTok or even here on YouTube, you would have seen thousands upon thousands of decks that are being shown to you. They're provided to you on a platter, and everything is so beautiful. One is better than the other, and you just don't know what to do. You're just spoiled for choices, and it's human to want them all, or it's human to want something that is not realistically fitting into your actual budget. And when you're starting out into tarot and oracle, you fall into one of two categories. The first category is someone who is not sure if they are going to really like this practice of cartomancy, so they err on the side of caution and they purchase something that is inexpensive or relatively inexpensive, which they can discard or just set aside if they don't want it. And on the other side are people like me who want to go all in, because we've been fascinated by this practice for years, and we want to get started right away. And we don't mind spending a bit extra, because we believe that, hey, you know what, I'm going to be using this deck forever, so I might as well treat myself to a really good one. And that's where the problem starts. One of my biggest regrets is not budgeting enough for tarot and oracle, because these decks are expensive, and unlike in places like the US or the UK, you don't get inexpensive decks or you don't get shops that offer discounts on decks. And in India, you do have to buy it through Amazon. Most of the times you have to import it from abroad. Even if you buy it through Amazon, it's imported, and so you have import duties that are added to the mix. And so unless you are very, very certain about a particular budget, I would highly recommend that you just put your preferred deck in the wish list and just hold off purchasing for a second. Just consider if this is money that you don't mind ever recovering. And now why I say this is because, like I said, again, in the US, in UK, Australia, in so many other countries, Western countries especially, you have a very large and thriving base for people who actually use tarot and oracle and other cartomancy tools. So even if you purchased a deck that was expensive and you found that it's something that you don't resonate with, you do have a large resale market over there. In India, that is not the case. You don't have a resale market over here. Even if you put, for example, the card or the deck for resale on websites like OLX, which is like a local version of eBay for my foreign viewers, you won't have any buyers. And even on eBay, or any sort of resale website that sells internationally as well, even if you find buyers, shipping your deck from India to abroad is going to be so expensive that you won't make any profits, or even you won't even break even. You won't even cover the costs of whatever you're spending to send the deck across. You will make a lot of losses. So I would say budget all of these things, before you purchase the deck. One is investing in the actual deck, the cost of the deck itself. Second is tools that you need to use the deck. So for example, if let's say you get interested in buying a deck that uses Pip style or Marseille style artwork, right? Most books that are available online, even material that is available online for free, cover the RWS system, that is the Rider-Waite-Smith system. And you need to purchase extra material for other systems such as Thought or Marseille, or any mixed systems that creators themselves have come up with. Oftentimes creators have the guidebook, and they may even create additional material that in the form of coursework or a expanded guidebook that you need to add as an add-on purchase. So all of these things will also increase your expense. Then you'll need to buy deck pouches in case you don't have space to store like clunky boxes. So that's something that you need to take into consideration. If you only purchase tarot, you might be enticed to buy an oracle deck to kind of go along with it. So that would be an add-on purchase that you need to think about as well. And you need to also again budget, like I said, if in case you end up not using this deck, you can't throw it away, because like I said, it's expensive. Nobody wants to throw away something that expensive, right? You can't resell it, and unless you have someone in your friend circle who's willing to take your deck off your hands, you'll need to find a way to justify that cost. And even if you do want to ship it somewhere else, those shipping charges and so on. So consider all of these. I know it's a lot of planning, and I know it's like taking the joy out of your tarot and oracle or cartomancy practice, especially when you're beginning anew. But you would really want to consider all these charges, because this practice, especially for in countries where it is not mainstream, it can get very expensive pretty fast. My second mistake / regret is buying decks that were popular on social media, and but which I don't resonate with on a personal level, and which I don't have any place for in my practice. Now, mind you, when I say decks, I don't mean a ton. I have only 25 decks, to be honest, that's it. And given the larger grand scheme of things in the tarot world, 25 is nothing. It's like a baby deck collection, you could say. Yet, for me personally, 25 seems like 20 too much. Because I literally just use like 5 decks in the entire collection. That's just it. The rest 20 are just sitting in my cupboard, just collecting dust, and I feel so horrible about that. So yeah, so like I said, so I purchased about, I think, 2 decks. One was a goddess themed deck, and another was a rune deck, both of which were insanely popular, and in fact they are insanely popular on social media right now. And I got them because I saw all these people using these decks, and I was like, hey, everyone's using these decks, I need to have this deck myself, and why don't I have it, and let me just purchase it right away. Again, I didn't budget the whole will I use the deck or not, and other materials and all those issues. I never paid attention to that. Like I said, biggest regret ever. But anyway, so I got these decks, and I was so excited, and I opened those decks and I started using them. I used them one day, I used them the second day, I used them for about a week, and then I closed the box, kept them inside, and I haven't touched those 2 decks in almost a year. And I know some people might say that, hey, what, a year is nothing. You got the rest of your life. You might feel different about these decks. You might one day just pick them up and start using them, and they might become your most favored decks ever later. Not right now, but I still feel like I'm someone who makes her choices, or rather who's very sure and certain about her choices. And when I feel like a deck is no, it's not for me, I'm never gonna pick it up again. Similarly, if I feel like a deck is for me, I'm never gonna let go of that deck. So when I bought those 2 decks, I never considered whether those decks would have actual space in my practice or not. So one thing that I would recommend is, when you're looking at a deck, when you're attracted by the aesthetics or the insight behind it, right, or whatever theme or energy that it's based on, before you purchase that particular deck, just consider your overall cartomancy practice or your magical practice or your spiritual practice as a whole. Does your spiritual practice have a specific place where this particular deck will fit in seamlessly? Is there another deck in your collection that already performs the roles, or at least, if not completely, at least is there an overlap between the roles that you expect this new deck to fulfill, that can already be completed by a deck that you own? Because more often than not, if there is a deck that can fulfill the role of this new deck that you want to buy, even if it is just like 50%, chances are you can make do with that deck that you already have. You don't need that new deck, because once you get it and once you use it for a couple of days, once that initial honeymoon period, that excitement that of a new deck wears off, this deck is just going to be a dead weight, because you bought it for a very specific purpose. For me, it was like I didn't have it, I wanted it because it looked so good, everyone was doing goddess worship, and I was like, why am I not having that in my practice? And I bought it, and then I realized personally, especially with the goddess deck, I realized that I don't connect with any deities outside of my own culture and my own religion. The deities that I work with are from the Hindu religion itself, because I've grown up within the Hindu tradition, and I work with very specific, very few deities even within my own tradition. And so I couldn't resonate with the other gods and goddesses, and although this deck was absolutely gorgeous, it's of no use to me. Similarly with runes, I was really into seeing these videos on YouTube and on Instagram, the reels on rune pulls and what might happen in the future, those kinds of videos. And I was like, I need to have runes, and I bought this deck, which is absolutely gorgeous. I think one of the best decks I have in terms of quality, and it's the production quality. And yet I don't use it anymore, because to me, when I started practicing tarot and oracle, it was basically with the idea of using it for self-empowerment, confidence building, understanding my emotional landscape, you could call it. So I was never looking at cartomancy with the perspective of predictions, right? And so the rune deck became pretty much useless. So figure out if there is a deck that you already own that performs the same roles or similar roles to the deck that you want to purchase. That way, even if a particular deck is super popular on social media, even if that deck is the most beautiful deck that you've ever seen, and maybe you'll never see a deck that is as beautiful or as amazing as this deck, you won't end up investing in it and just letting it collect dust. Because ultimately, social media, we have to remember one thing, is that all the images and videos that we see online, not all of them are highly authentic. We put all these lights, we have all these photo filters that we put into place, and the images of the cards and the reels are created in such a way that they entice people to buy our decks, because ultimately even spirituality is highly commercial. Let's just the fact is that spirituality has become highly commercial, and even cartomancy decks, which were initially designed for a whole lot of other purposes apart from the capitalistic commercial objectives, have become capitalistic and commercial themselves. So do give that a thought. My third regret and mistake was buying a deck that had a very restrictive usage. And for me, this deck was the Reclaim Oracle. And I love that deck. Okay? I bought that deck for my birthday, and the deck has helped me through really tough times. Yet, as much as I love that deck has a very restrictive usage as a cartomancy deck. The thing about the Reclaim Oracle, and I'm sure if you've seen flip-throughs and walkthroughs of the deck, I've actually done that in my older channel, a walkthrough of the deck. I can link that down below. The deck is just basically cards which have these gorgeous images of emotions and with the name of the emotion, but that's it. The deck is designed to help you do shadow work and to connect with your emotions and to understand and work on your particular self, right? On yourself, and to handle these complicated feelings and complicated relationships with yourself. So in that way, it's really, really effective, because Marian, who's the creator, has done a fabulous job with the artwork. But then beyond the journaling aspect of shadow work, beyond just the meditative experience that you get with just sitting and contemplating these emotions, right, that deck did not really serve any other purpose for me. I do have a couple of book reviews where I, my books and tarot playlist, where I pull a tarot and oracle card at the end of the book review, where I have used the Reclaim Oracle in a couple of videos, but again, that's kind of very sporadic. And while I don't regret the choice of this deck, because this deck has been very helpful, like I said, I do wish that I had found a much more cheaper deck that I could have purchased, which had performed the same function as the Reclaim Oracle. Because in India terms, I had paid around 3,500 for that deck because I had to import it from the United States, and that's a pretty expensive purchase, right? And so, um, yeah, I do wish I had purchased a deck which was not as expensive and which helped me perform the same objectives which I had for the Reclaim Oracle. Or better still, I do wish the Reclaim Oracle could have been used for something much more than just shadow work. Again, so here I recommend that when you want to purchase the deck, just think of what uses you can put the deck through. Is it just for journaling? Is it just for meditation? Or can you use it with somebody else? For example, the Reclaim Oracle is great if you're, for example, a counselor or a therapist, and you're working with patients every day, or maybe you're a school counselor, for example. You can use these cards to help your clients kind of open up and become more vulnerable to the conflicting emotions and conflicting experiences, challenging experiences that they're going through. I think this deck is perfect for that. But for me personally, since I am not professionally in any of the counseling or therapist or psychiatric line, for me the usage on an individual level was very restricted. So when you're buying a deck, and I know there are a lot of people who new cartomancy users, new tarot readers, love the idea of going pro, becoming professional tarot readers, and offering their services, which is fine. But when choosing your decks, just think whether your deck will help you fulfill even that. For example, apart from reading for yourself, will your deck help you become a professional tarot reader or a professional oracle reader without investing in a second deck? Can you use the same deck with another person? Can you use this deck for something else? For example, like I said, as a therapist or a counselor, can you take this deck on the job and infuse it in your day-to-day practice? So those are some things you have to think about. The more versatile a deck is, the better the investment is, because then you won't end up just pulling it out occasionally, once in a blue moon, and you'll actually use this deck regularly. Another deck buying regret / mistake that I made was buying multiple copies of a deck. Now, for those of you who followed my channel, you'll know that I love the Wild Unknown Tarot. That is literally one of my soul decks. I absolutely adore that tarot deck, and I made the unfortunate mistake of buying 2 copies of that deck. I already had 1 copy which I was using quite extensively, and then when I changed my job a couple of years ago, I decided to buy a second copy of that deck because I thought, one, I'll keep it at home, another I'll use at work. And I ended up just buying this new copy of the deck, and the entire deck was just sitting in my cupboard for quite some time. And then COVID happened and I was at home and I had both of these decks with me. So pretty useless. So I would just say, don't buy multiple copies of a deck unless you are absolutely certain that you're going to need it. Like absolutely certain you're going to need it. And even if you do buy multiple copies, try to get a mini copy and a big copy, because that way your mini copy can always be in your backpack or your handbag, whichever you carry for work and other instances when you travel, and your big copy can stay at home. Don't buy a large copy of the same deck multiple times. And if you don't have a job that involves too much traveling, where you need to have the same deck in multiple copies, get the deck again once your current deck is like destroyed, when it's completely worn out because you used it so much, it's bent out of shape, it's torn in places because you've been so rough with shuffling, you spent a decade or more with it, and it's like you barely can see the print anymore. Those are like that. Then it's fine to kind of get multiple copies of the deck, because otherwise, at least me personally, I've never found a reason where I've needed to use multiple copies of the same deck. Of course, there might be others who might use multiple copies of the same deck for different purposes. For example, I know people who use one copy exclusively for themselves and another copy to read for clients. I know people who use one copy for their personal readings and another copy for their artwork and tarot journaling, right? So unless you have very specific reasons why you want to use multiple copies of the same deck, it's best to just, save your money and just buy a single deck, a single copy. My final regret slash mistake is not investing in tarot apps early enough. That's right. I am a huge supporter of tarot apps. I know that this is a very contentious topic in the cartomancy world, where some people, swear by tarot apps. Other people wonder how tarot apps can actually be accurate and effective when, when you don't even have the cards in your hand. How do you transfer your energy to the app? How do you know that the card that is being pulled is right for you? Won't the algorithm be faulty? I know there are a lot of contentious issues with regards to tarot apps, but personally for me, my tarot apps, the apps that I use, are so effective and so on point. I actually feel terrible that I did not discover tarot apps before I bought physical copies of tarot cards. That's right, I've said it. If I knew the tarot apps existed when I started practicing cartomancy, I would probably not buy physical tarot decks ever. Because the decks that I use as tarot apps are so effective. They are much more effective, much more on point than my physical decks sometimes. It is scary how effective and how on point and how synchronous they are with what happens in my life. So this is, I think, one of my biggest recommendations for new tarot readers, for new oracle readers, for new cartomancy practitioners. If you are on a budget, or if you are unsure that you will like this practice, get a tarot app first. You have free apps such as the Labyrinthos, where you can download it for free. It doesn't cost anything. You can pull daily cards, you can do spreads, you can even learn tarot through the Labyrinthos app. You have, I think there was a free version of the Mystic Mondays app. I'm not sure if it's there anymore, but that app was good too for daily card readings. Those free apps are really great. Labyrinthos is one thing that I definitely suggest that you download. It's completely free, like I said. Even if you want to pay, tarot apps, they charge right from just 150 rupees to 400 rupees. That's it. It's so inexpensive. I have one tarot app that I have is that of the Wildwood Tarot, and the other tarot app that I have is of the Dark Goddess Tarot. Both of them just cost me 300 each, and I can just download them across all devices that I have. So if you have, for example, an Apple device, you can download it across all Apple devices because it's account linked. So they're great. It's very inexpensive. It mimics your practice of a physical tarot or oracle practice, and it is just as effective. At the end of the day, if you're using it for psychological reasons, to understand yourself or to work on yourself, or for just regular practical day-to-day guidance, then you can use a tarot app just the same way as you would a physical app, because you're just understanding the archetypes that are there on the cards. And through personal experience, I can also vouch for the predictive aspects of tarot apps as well. But of course, that's something you will need to experience on your own. So my biggest recommendation from this video, where I'm discussing my regrets and mistakes, is that before you purchase an actual physical tarot deck, especially in a country like India or any other country where tarot and any other cartomancy practice is not mainstream, where decks are really expensive, choose tarot apps. You get free apps like Labyrinthos, like I said, and even inexpensive ones which don't cost a bomb, which don't break the bank, and which are just as effective and just as fun and just as engaging. And then if you like your experience with this app and you want to bring your tarot or oracle or any cartomancy practice into the physical realm, then go ahead and just consider all these points that I've made previously, and then choose a deck which works for you, which has a place in your practice, and which you will use regularly. So yeah, so this brings me to the end of the list of my regrets and mistakes of purchasing tarot and oracle decks. In the next video, the follow-up video which I was talking about, I'm going to be giving you a couple of tips on how you can repurpose the decks that you don't use anymore. So if you're like me, you're stuck in a place where you use only a handful of decks in your entire collection and you're not sure what to do with the decks that you have, then be sure to watch out for my next video, where I give you some tips, tricks and strategies on how you can successfully repurpose your tarot, oracle, and other cartomancy decks so that you don't end up just throwing them away or letting them collect dust. And I'm sure you'll enjoy some of the tips that I provide for you. Alright, if you stuck around with me so far, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video in Tales in Text. Bye.